Okay, everybody know that we are recording now. Okay, we are recording, and this is the class reminders and policies that we just went over. If you're looking at this, I just started recording, and I'm significantly into this. But if you look at this list, and if you have any questions on this list, go ahead and email me. Don't be afraid to email me, and make sure that you're able to do all of these things. And now I'm gonna go on with the presentation. Doing something wrong. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, class reminders and policies during the COVID-19 adjustments. Okay, there are a lot of different things that we're adjusting to during this time period. And I know they're very difficult adjustments, and I appreciate you doing them. And I'm going to say that at some point, you may forget one or the other. And if that's the case, then we'll remind you, or go ahead and get started with it. Maybe if you get started with it late, it's okay. Or if you just need to call me and say, okay, I don't really understand this, let me know. But first, I would suggest highly that you visit the Keep On Teaching website. UHD has created the Keep On Teaching website. The provost has had a big part in this. And I think a very good website. A lot of the university faculty and staff have been involved in creating it. And it has a lot of information. So please visit this website if you need any review of what needs to happen, or you have questions that you just want to get answered with information on the UHD website. So I think it would be just a great idea to do that. And the other one is the UHD provost emails. If the provost sends you an email right now, for sure, pay very close attention to it, because he's sending out a lot of emails with very vital information. A lot of the information in the email sends you to websites you need to go to. Okay, so that in itself is highly valuable, and that will answer a lot of your questions. First thing I want to address after that is the SU option. If you've been here in the spring or the summer, we've had the SU option, and it's been awfully difficult, in all honesty, to implement it. I have a student today, for instance, who sent me 3 emails where they sent it to their professors that they want to use the SU option in the spring semester. And all 3 professors gave the student an F instead of a U. So implementing it was very difficult. And a lot of times professors just missed an email. And so in missing the email, they end up giving the student an F instead of a U. It has caused a lot of, a lot of difficulty. But I think, thankfully, the SU option is gone. Now, I say thankfully for the most part. On some occasions, the SU option was absolutely vital, because students were caught in situations where they just had no chance for success, and it was to the virus. And it was very difficult. So I think in a lot of cases, the SU option was important. So in this case, where we're getting rid of the SU option, we now have to probably be a little bit more liberal with incompletes, and give incompletes more of a consideration than we did before, especially with students who are encountering issues after the drop date, after the W date. If you have a student who's who has turned in and submitted a significant amount of work, and they've done well, and then all of a sudden, let's say after Thanksgiving, everything goes haywire. Well, there's a very good chance that COVID-19 has caused a massive change in their life. It has made it impossible for them to continue like they were. We ask students to make a 16-week commitment when they come in. I don't know anybody who can really make a 16-week commitment right now. I mean, it's impossible for us to say in 16 weeks we'll be teaching these classes, because we don't know what's going to happen to us in this pandemic. there are a lot of things that are out of our control. So that being the case, let's try our best. And I am so hopeful that all of you are still teaching come December and complete your classes. I am hopeful and really, really pray that it happens. But if it doesn't, let me know, okay? And if your students run into issues, remember your students live lives that are completely different than most of us. I mean, I went to my twins are in high school. I went to their high school the other day because they do athletics. My son runs cross country. And the coach said, stay 6 feet apart. That was absolutely ridiculous to think we would stay 6 feet apart. And so the kids, especially young people, they're in high traffic areas all the time. It's just part of their life. Much different than my life where I'm able to isolate myself much more easily. So, we need to be able to understand that they're under a lot of stress, and that if COVID-19 enters their family, if they get sick and they could recover very easily, their parents may not. And that may throw a big monkey wrench in their life. So the provost is along with us on this. He's the one that's been at the top of the list on this message. Let's be considerate. Let's be flexible. Let's try our best to help our students. So if you think you need to give a student incomplete, I highly encourage you to do it. Do not be afraid.
Hello.
Say David's gonna come back and say I can't do this incomplete. No, I will work with you, and I will grant you a lot of latitude on this. Is there questions on this? Because I heard some people talking. Questions? Okay, the one thing that I have to ask though is if you give an incomplete, I need your paperwork and your student needs your paperwork. Okay? Your student has to know what's in front of them and what's expected of them, even though they are not going to finish when they originally were meant to finish. They will only have one long semester. If you give them incomplete, they have to be done by May or in F. And I have seen enough incompletes over time where in almost every case, incompletes are not successfully completed. It's I have one faculty member who tells me all the time, I hate to give an incomplete because it's almost like I'm giving them the death sentence on the class. They're not going to complete it. They won't do it. I understand. But a really good way to help the situation is to let the student know exactly what's expected of them. Due dates, assignments, all of it. Because if they don't do all of that, they will end up failing the class. So do know I'm happy to give incompletes. If you think a student deserves a chance and needs an incomplete, please do so. Do also know that incompletes are more work for you. They truly are. That means that you have to work past this semester. You have to collect their assignments, and you have to grade their assignments. You have to send me a grade change form from I to C or I to B and go through that. And so I understand that it's more work, but I'm going to ask that if you have situations where students need this, go ahead and let students have this, okay? It's just one of those times where we need to be as flexible and compassionate as we can be. Hopefully down the road, things will normalize and we can get back to a more stringent system where there's a little more order. But as for now, we're living in a world of chaos. So we have to adjust to the chaos.
Yep.
Book orders. Please put in your book orders. That's been an issue in the past. And it's right there on your Blackboard page where you can go to file it and place your book order. That said, we know it's highly difficult and it's not very user friendly. I'm looking right now at Ruth Goldberg, who had a problem with it. She was trying to do it. And I had several full-time faculty members, people who've been here for decades, who are having difficulty getting their book orders in. So Jerry Johnson in the provost office is working on fixing that where it will be better. So hopefully he and Follett will get together and make a little more stable, a little more user-friendly system come spring. But I appreciate everybody getting those book book lists in so that the students can go in and buy their books. If you don't have books in your class, or if you're using OER, where your class is cost-free, go ahead and still go to Follett, say that your class is cost-free, and put that order in, because they need to put, the state legislatures asking the universities to track, to see which classes are OER classes, where students are using outside educational resources that are free, or they're using resources that are free and that we're cutting costs for our students. The state legislature wants us to cut costs for our students. I personally have always wanted to cut costs for our students. I remember paying my way through school and going to this bookstore and buying books and copying things, going back and selling them back the next day, so because books were so expensive. And so I know all the tricks, but we should take those tricks out of the bag and put them out there and just do our best to help our students. So if you do that, I really appreciate that. Grade changes. The grade changes, a lot of you have grade changes because of incompletes from the past semester. Be sure just to fill out the form and send it directly to me. I can send it to the register. When I send it to the registrar, I put your name on it so you'll have a record that I sent it, okay? So, but I do need to approve those before they go through. The students with disabilities, if the Office of Disabilities gives you an accommodation paper for a student, for the most part, we need to do whatever we can to give that accommodation to the student. If that accommodation ruins the integrity of your class, please don't directly call Hope. Call me first, okay? Because Hope Pamplin, the Director of Disability Services, she's going to send it to you. Now, sometimes Hope doesn't send too many that fall into that category where they ruin the integrity of your course. She has been very good about making sure that the people taking the course still have to have a challenging course. She doesn't make it or she's very hesitant to make it where it's just too easy for the person. And she puts a lot of work in that. But if that happens, let me know. If a student with a disability gets an accommodation that makes the assignment worthless, I need to know about that. And you and Hope and I can get together and talk about it by email or face-to-face and figure out a better way to get it done, okay? I got Be Green down there because we need to be green on our postings on Blackboard. Everything we have on Blackboard needs to be in the green. And it does help, especially with students who are visually impaired, to have green assignments, okay? Like, especially if you have a Microsoft Word document, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to get it to green. If you don't know what that is, or you don't understand how to get there, Disability Services will be happy to show you what to do, but it's not that hard. I mean, basically what they want you to do is have reading materials with titles where it's easy for us to distinguish without looking at what titles are, what texts are, what pictures are, and so forth, okay? So if we can do that, we need to do that. And I'm hopeful that almost everybody can get their documents to all green. Susan, did you want to add anything to that?
I'm just wondering. I'm wondering if it would help to show what you meant by that, since we do have some new people. Let me see if I can get one of my courses up here, and we can look at it.
Let me get mine down. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Now you should be able to share screen now.
Yeah, I'm just signing on to Blackboard.
Thank you. Don't hesitate to stop me, Susan. If
it's okay.
Something to add.
Okay, let me get back to where you are and share my screen. Okay, this is actually a good one because it shows the both of what we mean. Okay, so right here is the little radio dial. That is for Ally. That is a Blackboard plugin that tells whether your documents can be read through a screen reader or any of the normal disability services accessibility tools. Now, you'll see here, like the one I have going for this fall and the one from summer, because those were the ones where we really started looking at Ally. They're both green. Now, these ones back here are orange. This was before we really started doing the Ally thing. If they're hidden, see it says availability hidden from students, they don't count. The students can't see them. It doesn't, anything you've hidden from students because it's just something you want to be there, don't worry about it. It doesn't have to be green. Only these things, you see here, it doesn't say hidden. These things that, whoops, that students can see need to have this green dial. Now, even this dial is not perfect. I need to go back and look at it because if I click on it, you'll see this thing, it's only 78% because I have a table in here that I haven't put headers on. But this tells me what to do to fix it, okay? This tells me what this means and how to set the table headers. So it's very simple to go back. All I have to do is take my syllabus down, just fix the header and put it back up and it'll be at whatever, 99 or 100%. So it's not difficult to fix what you need to if you just follow these instructions right over on the side. No big deal. Okay? Any questions?
That will automatically populate whether it's green or not?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll take you a minute though. So it'll, like, you have to navigate off of it and then navigate back onto it for it to change.
Okay.
Okay, so if I just changed it, it would still say orange and I would have a little heart attack. And then I would remember, yes, I need to go off of it before I come back on it.
Yeah, but the perfect 100% is a really dark green, light green. But what they're going to look at and see is if you're green. That's what they're going to check for. But if you can get the dark green and somebody needs that to be dark green in order to actually read your document, then it's a better service. And it's not that difficult to do. Like Susan said, on that 78%, all she had to do was put the headers at the top of her table, and then she was there. So
I have a question about that, if I may interrupt.
go ahead, Desiree.
When I post research articles for them to read, they always show a red, and you can't fix an existing research article. So what do we do with that?
That is when you get in touch with disability services. They do have people who can make those green for you.
Okay. So
Okay. So there are people who know how to do this.
There's a couple ways to do it.
Just use them. Yeah, there are a couple ways to do it, but really use the disability services. They may have just a paper or, you know, a handout that they send to you now. That's what I've heard, that where you can do it. You just follow the steps.
Okay.
But if you're absolutely stuck, you can send it to them and they will take care of it.
Okay.
If you have PDF of articles, for instance, a lot of times those are now online in a journal.
Yeah.
If you can just set the website there, then that'll put it on green if you can do that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
And there's ways to edit PDF documents to make them green. You can do it, but it's a little more work than Microsoft Word, but it can occur. But there are easier ways to do it sometimes than others. Like I had like 4 articles that were read and they were PDFs because I just copied them on the copy machine and made pictures, right? And I just went to JSTOR and I found them on JSTOR and I set the JSTOR URL and I had it green all of a sudden. So,
Okay.
So there's ways around it. And I mean, I know we're just trying to make it easier for our students. This makes it a little harder.
Yeah.
It makes it easier for the students who need this accommodation. And I know that students who need accommodations, in almost every case, they don't get enough accommodation to actually come close to having an even playing field. I mean, if you walk in their shoes for a day, and you can't really walk in their shoes, it's just walk around and see what they have to go through.
Sure.
Visually impaired students, it's very difficult, what they have to do. So I'm personally for, let's do everything we can to help them. And this is just one little thing that we can do to help them. It doesn't pave the way to their success, but it makes things a little easier.
Mhm.
So those accommodation problems, if you have them, just let me know, okay? And then beforehand, and then we can work it out. And I think you'll get a little bit perspective on, what we have to go through and so forth. And I want to make it where your class is a good class for everybody, including students with accommodations. So if that happens, go ahead. But if it's an accommodation you can easily, or you can provide, then go ahead and do that. Sometimes there's accommodations that are impossible to provide. If that happens, let me know. I mean, I had one faculty member say yesterday he had to close caption all of his videos. Well, he wasn't prepared to close caption all of his videos. So
Oh my Lord.
we figured out a way to just make it a little bit better where, everybody had a reasonable way to go, and it made things a little easier for the student. The other thing is that you may be getting Title IX accommodations that you need to provide. In those instances, when you get an accommodation from Disability Services, you don't ask what the disability is. You just provide the accommodation. It's a need to know. You don't need to know what the disability is. Sometimes it's obvious what the disability is. Even if it's obvious, you need to go ahead and just act like you don't know what it is. I mean, that's just a good policy. If somebody is visually impaired, you don't need to note in class when you were talking in the class that somebody's visually impaired. You just need to go ahead and go forward and provide that accommodation and then teach your class. It's just a good policy. I've had students who were very insulted that a professor would actually reveal their disability, even though it was clearly obvious what the disability was. For the professor to say it was highly offensive to the student. So please be on your P's and Q's, cross your T's and dot your I's, and make sure that you're careful about what you say when it comes to disability. Now, the other one is Title IX. I will say if you get a Title IX accommodation that you must provide, there's less argument to be made even on Title IX. You need to do whatever you can to provide that accommodation. And you need to do it without asking why you need to provide the accommodation. Once again, it's one of those need to know. And there's some things, in all honesty, you don't not just need to know, you don't want to know. So unfortunately, sometimes this may put a crimp in your class and so forth, but if you get a Title IX accommodation from Erica Harrison, do what you can and to provide that. If you can't provide it in the manner that she says, you need to tell her what's going on so that maybe she can alter it in a way where you can provide it, or maybe some other adjustment needs to be made on the outside. But this is very important, that if you get a Title IX accommodation letter from Erica Harrison or an email, please go ahead and provide that accommodation, okay? And do not ask why. Are there any questions on that? Okay.
David, someone did ask in chat, what is Title IX?
Oh, Susan, do you have a good definition of Title IX?
Title IX is well, the purpose of Title IX is to ensure equality, equal access to educational services. That's the best way to look at Title IX. But it really helps even the playing field on a lot of things that you might not expect, not only straight up gender issues or sexual harassment or anything like that, but also, people who are victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and stuff like that, evening the playing field for them as well. And so it is something that is a very hot button issue right now, very important that we follow Title IX to the letter of the law, and really help students who have a trauma history, a harassment history, a history with, you know, a disability history, any of it, that they all have a level playing field.
Pregnancy also falls under Title IX.
In pregnancy, yeah, well, and pregnancy and postnatal, post-childbirth.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So everybody also needs to remember that's something we sometimes forget, but in the postpartum period, students are also eligible for accommodations.
So that, I mean, but that's another reason why it's so important that you don't ask why. Just go ahead and go forward with it. If you want to ask me about it, please make it about the class itself, okay? I have to make this accommodation in this class. I'm having a hard time with this accommodation. Please don't say why. Dr. Branham, tell me why I have to make this accommodation. I don't need to know why. You don't need to know why. We are out of the loop on that, but it's going to be important that we do it, okay, to be in compliance with Title IX. Most of us know Title IX from NCAA athletics, right?
Yes, evening the
That's the
playing
reason why I
field
have
for
recruiters
females.
at my door, because my daughter knows how to play golf. You know, my daughter's a pretty good golfer, so I mean, she's got a pretty good path because of Title IX. On that level, I really appreciate it. But it's goes far beyond that. And we're going to talk more about it, the issue, going further. But
Can I make one more comment?
ahead.
That if
Go
a
ahead.
student comes to you and says, I'm pregnant, or I'm a victim
Hello.
of domestic violence, or I'm postpartum, or any of it,
This
You
is
should
Catherine.
not-
How are you? I'm in a
you
Zoom meeting at
absolutely
school, but I
should
was gonna
not
call
decide
you.
on your own.
Christy, you need
Okay,
to mute yourself.
Especially at my physical therapy. I can't
Christy,
walk.
Christy,
I walk like E.T. Nisha.
I'm sorry. I did it myself.
anyway, you should not decide yourself to give them accommodations. You should very much send them to the Title IX people. You should not do this on your own. They need to go through the system and go through the process.
Just
really,
you can
really.
email and say, look, Dr. Branham, I think I have a Title IX issue. Who do I need to talk to? I will send you to Erica Harrison right away and you don't need to tell me what it's about. Just say, look, I think I have a Title IX issue. If you think you have one, you need to go ahead and go forward with that. Don't hesitate. Even if you think it's dumb or it's not really one, still do it, okay? I turned one in myself one time when I asked, I said, I don't really think this is an issue, but let me know. Turns out it was. And it would have been very serious if I had not turned it in. So we need to make sure that even if you think there's any chance that this is an issue, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this later, turn it in. Get Erica Harrison, and you can email her, Erica Harrison. You put Harrison in, it says Title IX coordinator, send her an email. I mean, she usually responds right away with it. And I talk to her a lot. She's easy to work with, but she is very serious about her job and what needs to be done, because her job is a very serious one. So this is something that's really big now, and it's become big since I became chair. Before I was chair, this wasn't a big issue. It is now. So if you've been here for a long time, just know that things are not the same anymore, and that we have to take care of business on this. Okay? Any other questions? Okay, where am I? Let's see. Class roster certification we've already talked about. Respondus Lockdown Browser. We have Respondus Lockdown Browser, and now we have it with webcam. If you haven't used that, what it does is, if you're doing an online test, it requires the student to have a webcam and lockdown browser on their computer, and it basically films them while they're taking the test. I used it last semester for the first time. It's awesome. It's really, really easy to put in, and it's a really easy way to see that your students are not doing something that they shouldn't be doing on their test. I had a graduate student who took a test who told me point blank, I had somebody sitting next to me when I was taking the test, talking to me. And I had to say, I said, look, that's an academic violation for you to have somebody helping you take the test. If you have the lockdown browser with a webcam, you can see it. And the beautiful thing is you don't have to watch them while they're taking their test. It films them taking the test. And when it films them, you can look at it and say, okay, it gives you a little bar up there that says, this student was very active during the test. You need to look at this to see what the student was doing. Or it gives you a bar that says this student was just taking the test, no activity that was suspicious. You can go on. So you don't really have to watch every film, and it lets you see which films you need to watch. So it's the best tool for online to make sure that your online classes are credible that I've seen in a long time. So I highly encourage you to use it. It's just Respondus Lockdown Browser with webcam. It takes 5 minutes to put on your tests. So go ahead and do that. And you can go ahead and do that and not worry, give it a test. I highly suggest though, if you use Respondus Lockdown Browser, that you let your students take a try. Make sure they download it and take a tryout test. Something easy, a simple quiz or something like that, to make sure that they have it set the way they're supposed to have it set. Because with students, sometimes they mess up when they download something, or there's an issue. For instance, you have to use Google Chrome, I think, or you can't use Google Chrome. I can't remember the exact instructions, but that way, if you can just have them take a very short quiz or something like that on Lockdown Browser where you can test it out ahead of time, I think that's the way to go. But I think you'll be very pleased if you take a little bit of time, use the Lockdown Browser with webcam, and you'll be able to see that your students you'll be able to basically watch them take the test and see what they're doing while they're taking the test. Does anybody have anything to add? Any questions on it? If you have questions, call IT. The IT people will get you right through it. They'll show you how to do it. It's super simple. It's really.
I wanted to make a mention that Lockdown Browser is incompatible with Chromebook.
It's Chromebook that it's incompatible with, right?
Right.
Okay. So you might put that, if you use it, you might put that in your notes.
That's what it's in the syllabus, in that policy, that 2 pages of policy statements. It actually says that.
Voice. Hi, Pam.
Hi.
See your face.
I'm sorry, I'm a ghost. So there's in that thing from the provost where he talks about technology requirements, it specifically mentions Chromebooks are not acceptable.
It does, because I was advocating for it during our meetings that we need to be able to do that, and they were worried that it would be too high of a cost to students. It's really not a high cost to students to have this. It's very simple to get a webcam, and it's not high cost to do that. But it doesn't work on Chromebooks. Some people said it yesterday.
No, Respondus will not work on Chromebooks, and there are a bunch of other things that won't work on Chromebooks.
Okay. Well, somebody said yesterday it didn't work on a Mac. It does work on a Mac, apparently. So that's not an issue. And that's very easy to fix. All these issues are very easy to fix and adjust for. But thanks for bringing that up, Mark, so that we could address it. Any other questions?
Well, the other thing that I'm worried about is that right now, just getting a computer, if you're using a Chromebook and you just need to buy a new computer, they're in short supply.
Yep.
They may be in short supply. I'm not for sure exactly how short supply they are. I think
they're in short supply, I can guarantee you.
Excuse me?
What's happened is because all the school districts are buying up all of the computers they possibly can, they are in short supply. I will tell you that. I had a friend trying to get one last week. The low-end ones. Like, you can get the $4,000 one. That's the easy one. But the $500 ones are hard to find.
Yeah, and I haven't really heard a lot of talk on the university on providing students in need with extra computers and stuff like that.
Right.
I remember during Harvey, we were doing a lot of that. but I don't know if there's a resource problem. It probably is a resource problem because our budget has been tied up due to the COVID-19 crisis or pandemic. So that's probably what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
We have a supply of computers that we have been giving out at UHD, but that supply has been dwindling over time. But if you have a student who's in serious need of technology, I have referred several students to IT people, and they have been helped with computers, with actual computers.
Right.
But I reserve this for people who say, I am going to drop your class because I can't do this, right? Those are a very specific group, not the, oh, my Wi-Fi is unreliable, you know, because that's a normal problem. I'm talking about the people who can't come to campus to access the computer labs. And so I think that if you contact IT, they will put you in touch with the right people. And you can ask on behalf of your student if they will get in touch with your student about technology. They've always followed through for me. Every single time.
Yeah, we have an excellent IT department.
We do.
Yes, we do.
And they're very helpful.
I appreciate that they treat adjuncts just like they're full professors.
They do. They doesn't matter to them what your status is.
I've just been fascinated by it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of what I loved about UHD the day I walked in the door. And nobody was trying to want the day I walked in. I was so used to a university where everybody was trying to show you how much smarter they were than you and so forth. And did my interview, I was going, who's the person who's supposed to be the king around here? There's no king. So I loved it from the day I walked in the door.
Yeah.
David, I have a concern. There's a bunch of questions going on in the chat.
Okay, I haven't been paying attention.
And I'm worried that they'll get lost. For example, Reba has a question about requiring a face-to-face class. I mean, a online class to have face-to-face meetings. And no, you cannot do that. You cannot require them unless it's a synchronous online class, meaning that it has a time associated with it in the schedule. You cannot require them to be in class at a certain time. If you have a class that's voluntary and you record your class and post it for the whole class, then you can make it required that they watch it, so that they either are there or they watch it. But you cannot require attendance in an asynchronous online class.
And you can't require anybody to show their face. That's important in any class that's online. You cannot require people to show their face. You can't say, put your face on where. Unfortunately, you can't do that. I mean, I say unfortunately or fortunately, that's just a rule. We can't do that. So.
Well, can you make the request?
No, Pam, it'd be better that you didn't make the request.
The problem is that, you know, if they're not using a virtual background and you're seeing their house and they may feel that they don't want that showing people, it's really amazing. I was surprised at how many people are really uncomfortable, including myself, turning the video on.
Yeah, I understand. So I mean, that's what I think they're thinking about with the students. Anytime that you have a class atmosphere where you have several people like this right here, you cannot require those students to show their face. You can require attendance. You can require that you be able to see their name up there or their picture if they put a picture, but you can't require them to show their face. So I suggest that with all attendance policy, I'm not saying that you should make it where attendance doesn't matter. I'm suggesting that if someone doesn't come to class, that you make some kind of adjustment where they can make up for that. because there will be all kinds of situations that we really don't want to know about that will be important for us to adjust for. So especially this semester. So if you're on an online class, don't make them show their face. And if you have an attendance policy, even in the synchronous classes, if somebody doesn't come, you have to provide some way for them to make that up, where they can go ahead and be successful in your class. It just would be a whole lot easier if you're able to do that going forward.
I got a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the class that was face to face that is moved to online, and it had the time period. Will that class still be held at that time? Did you get me?
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear it well.
I think he had a face-to-face and he moved it to online, and he's asking, does it have to be synchronous, I think.
If it was a face-to-face class at a time, and so if it has a time, it has to be synchronous when you go online at that same time. So if you have a 1 to 2:30 class that has been moved from face-to-face to synchronous online, you need to conduct that class from 1 to 2:30. We have to remember that students have scheduled times themselves. They've selected your class because of that time. So we have to adhere to that time.
Okay. But would attendance be required?
I'm sorry?
That's up to you.
Yeah, it's up to you. And if attendance is required, make some provision where if the student isn't able to come, that they can make that up. Don't just give them a 0 for not being there. Okay, a lot of times I used to say, if you miss 2 classes, it's no big deal. The 3rd class, then I'll start giving you a 0. I wouldn't do that this semester. I would make some provision where you didn't come to class, so do this to make up for the fact that you didn't come to class.
Now, how do you guarantee that the student know that the class was moved from face to face? I sent emails, but is there a way to guarantee that the students know that it's now online?
Michael, I'm sorry, you broke up. You cut in and out on your Wi-Fi. Did anybody hear it? Maybe it's my Wi-Fi. Did anybody hear it?
Yeah, I hear you. But how do you guarantee that the students know that the class is moved from face to face to online?
You have to email them yourself.
I did, but yeah.
Your coordinator has already done that if they make a change. But the big thing this semester is you need to, day one, you need to be contacting your students. Mass emails, tell them what to do, make sure you answer all their questions, and so forth. Make sure that they're all engaged. More than in the past, please do so. Because students need now that interaction because they're not getting it face-to-face, especially those who are used to face-to-face interaction. Even online, a lot of students would come to campus, they'd have study groups and so forth. They're not gonna be able to do that. So go ahead and take care of that. Are you looking at the chat room, Susan?
Yeah.
Do you have those questions?
Yeah, do you want me to go?
Yeah, go over
through them
if you would. I appreciate that.
Okay, so Jennifer, your question about unreliable internet, should we avoid using forced completion? That's one tactic, yes, for sure. I still use forced complete on my tests because it's a test security issue for me, but that does mean that every once in a while I have to reset a test, right? So that's the trade-off with forced completion. But remember, you definitely don't you don't have to use it if you don't want to use it, if it doesn't fit with the way that you teach or want to teach. So yeah, you can decide on that yourself. Also, let's see what else.
There's a respondents with video. Respondents with video does force you to show your face, but you're not showing it in a classroom setting. So that is okay. You can tell the student they have to show themselves during the test. You're the only one seeing that. The issue with the classroom setting is everyone is forced to see their face.
That's correct.
That can be a violation. So don't force them in a classroom setting, But with Respondus, with video, you can use that and say, look, you have to show your face during the test.
Right.
Why wouldn't we require they use virtual background?
Because it also has to do with their personal appearance. If there is, you know, if there's anything that they don't want to show for their personal appearance, then they should not be required to do so. If they have a big black eye or
Well, now I get
bloodshot
that.
eyes
I
or
got it.
whatever.
But okay.
So, yeah.
Just hard teaching to a whole bunch of names.
I totally agree. It's kind of disconcerting. I did a lot this summer, and so I feel for everybody on that.
I usually have at least 3 or 4 people who at least will show their face, so that I can know that I'm not just talking to a room full of names.
Yeah. So I want to address Reba's follow-up question to me because I think it's a good one for everyone. She says, she can't, even if she can't require attendance, can I let them know that I'm meeting on Zoom on these certain days? Absolutely. That's what I'm doing with one of my classes this semester. I have told them that I am lecturing at 11 a.m. on Thursdays. If they want to attend my lecture live, they will get the opportunity to ask questions, which will help them during the semester, but I don't require it, and they can watch the lecture later. Because I record it, and then I upload it and put it in the class. And by the way, I'm very willing to help anybody who doesn't know how to upload a video recording from Zoom. I will help you to do that. You can do it through 365 very easily through the SharePoint.
Yeah, luckily for us, Susan has committed herself to doing a lot of work for y'all to help y'all out during the semester next year. So please take advantage. Don't be afraid to email her and ask her, you know, if you need help.
Pamela, if we have an excellent way to work around MediaSite, which is to me the hardest one to use. We have an excellent workaround on that now, and I can tell you no problem how to how to do that.
I'll email you.
Sure.
Okay, did we cover them all? Oh, where's the barbecue? Yeah, John. Sorry, I actually have a bigger budget this year for food, and now we can't come together to eat it.
I know, right?
Hopefully in the spring we can have an adjunct meeting with food. Right? And
one thing I love.
This time I'll do a little better job with the vegetarians and the vegans. Yeah.
I do miss the food.
Then we'll come together and we'll get to eat. That would be fantastic. I'll go ahead and share screen again. Hopefully finish most of this off. Okay, we've done this. So page down. Okay, I want to go over the face mask violation protocol in your classes. It's very simple. If a student doesn't have a face covering in your class, we recommend 4 basic steps. And I suggest that you just adhere to these steps and try to do it in a non-emotional manner. We don't want any fights like they had on the airplane on TV and stuff like that. There's no need for that. I mean, the whole point is to make it where things are better, not worse. So determine whether the student is exempt from wearing a mask. And there will only be a very few students that are actually exempt from wearing a mask. And those students will have an accommodation from the Office of Disabilities. So if they're not wearing a mask, they should be able to present their accommodation. I believe Hope was even thinking about giving them wristbands. That's what I heard, but that's not official yet. So if somebody comes to your class and they say, well, I don't have to wear a mask, ask them for their accommodation, okay? If they don't have one, ask the student to put on a mask. And if the student then decides that they don't want to put on the mask, you can ask them to leave the class. And then if that happens, you ask them to leave the class and they leave, you should report that to the dean of students. Okay, did I cut out any on that?
No.
Okay, good. If the student refuses to leave your class, then you can actually cancel your class. And if the student presents what I call a danger to the students around them, you should cancel your class. It's better to be safe. The worst thing that can happen is that our classes actually cause somebody to get COVID-19. That would be, I mean, so we need to avoid that as much as we can. So if a student says, I'm not wearing a mask and I'm sitting here, you should cancel the class. Let me know and let the dean of students know. You need to report that student to the dean of students so that student will no longer be in your class, okay? That would be mandatory. Once you cancel a class, report that student to the dean of students. If you have any questions, just call me or email me, okay?
Do we have any idea about the positivity rate at the university?
No, I can tell you we don't. I mean, I don't know if we have any idea about the positivity rate anywhere, except for the NBA bubble maybe, or where they're
Actually, David, we do.
and
Cynthia
nobody's allowed to
Vargas.
go out. But
Actually,
Rhonda,
David, we do. Cynthia Vargas, our director of emergency management, has posted on our website COVID. So if you go to the main website, you'll see the COVID-19, and it will show you they do have a contact tracing program. They are reaching out to those individuals that have been have contracted COVID-19 and those that have been exposed. In fact, there is on every podium in every classroom, there's going to be directions on how to report an exposure. So if someone in your class came to your class 1 week and then the next week they're not there because they've been exposed, there are instructions on how to report that and how to self-report. So if a student comes in, they'll see the instructions on how to self-report. But we have about 15 people that have been working with the emergency management team to do contact tracing to reach out to individuals that have been exposed. And I believe I want to say there were 60 people that contracted it over this course that were affiliated with UHD, but no one that has contracted COVID has been on campus in the last month. So we know that the area is clean, but they are watching over about 60 people. I believe 27 of those people are all clear now. So there is a report on the website that could tell you those numbers.
Okay.
that's true, but you should never assume that people don't have it.
Oh no, and I don't.
That was my point. Ron,
I just wondered.
And thank you for putting that in there, Ron. I appreciate it. So people get an idea what we're doing, but you should never assume that we've tested everybody and we've gotten everybody who's gotten COVID-19. It's just impossible.
Right.
People are walking around. There are probably people on this screen who've had it who did not know they had it. I mean, so many people are asymptomatic. You should never assume that anybody doesn't have it. I'm surprised at how many people do, but don't ever assume that someone doesn't have it. And the protocols, Jerry Johnson sent out an email that I can share with you on the procedures to take on these situations. And Rhonda is exactly right. She's worked closely with it. I thank you for putting it in. So any other questions on that? Do not allow students to sit in your class without a mask.
They won't, believe me. That's not happening.
Masks should cover your nose and your mouth. A lot of people like to throw it underneath their nose. You can pass the disease from your nose. So put it over your nose and your mouth, okay? And it should be worn in all places in the university except in your office alone. When you're alone in your office, you can go without a mask. If you're not alone, you have to wear a mask.
Right.
Or there are certain situations, for instance, in our office where we're going to distance people from Teresa and barriers between her and the rest of the offices. She can be without a mask because we're going to distance her from everybody. But those are just certain situations. For the most part, if you're on the university, if you're in a hallway, if you're walking around, if you're doing anything in a stairwell, in an elevator, you need to have a mask on. Anything that you're doing, okay? Just make it a rule. If you see somebody without a mask, just ask them nicely to put on their mask. Just ask them. Don't get mad. Don't tell them that they're this and that and all that. Just say, please, sir, put on your mask, or please, you must have forgot your mask. You know, be
I
nice.
do it all the time.
Okay. There will be vending machines with masks in them. So you can buy a mask on campus. If your student doesn't have a mask, you can send them to the vending machine and let them come back. Should just be 5 minutes. That's a good way to go. Okay.
Is student government passing out masks?
I don't know. I haven't talked to Al. I haven't seen Alan, so I don't know.
Each student will receive each student will receive a cloth mask that has the UHD on it. My understanding, I'm not sure how they're going to be distributed yet, but they did buy enough masks. There will be entry points, and on that COVID-19 website I referenced, which can be accessed at the UHD main homepage, will tell you the entry points. So there are entry points during this first phase and the orange phase. So we're currently opening in red, and then on September 8th, we'll move into orange. During both of these phases, students are not allowed to congregate, mingle, or walk around campus. Only those students who have an academic class will be allowed. They must show their student schedule or an appointment and an email saying they have an appointment with a professor to get into the building. So they can't just wander around. Faculty and staff, we're going to take your word for it. If you come in and say, I'm a faculty, I have a class tonight, you're going to be let in, no worries whatsoever. But students must show that they belong there and that they have either a class or an appointment. And they will also have some paper mask there. I know that we have PPE bags, we're calling them safety bags, for every faculty member and staff member. And in those bags, there are 10 face shields that you will be given. You're welcome to keep those and hand those out to students that might forget them. They're just paper. They're like I said, you have 10 of them at your disposal. And you will also have hand sanitizer, a big bottle of hand sanitizer and a small hand sanitizer for your personal protection. But students can get, there will be a vending machine with the face mask for just a few cents on the 3rd floor. But I believe the security guards will also have some paper ones handing those out to students. But students, only the students that belong on campus for class purposes or for appointments will be allowed during these first 2 phases.
I have a quick question. For those of us who are starting face-to-face Monday or Tuesday, how do we get a hold of the PPE stuff for us? The shield and all of that?
That's a good question. We were trying to get with the deans and the chairs to find out how many each group needed, but I'm not sure if that happened.
We're going to distribute it to the dean's office. We're going to distribute it through the dean's office.
So we can stop by your office?
Up in the air. Our dean, David Ryden, said he wanted to distribute through his office. So I don't know. I may be delivering it for you to your class. I may just get with you and let you know what's going on. I'm not sure. But I plan to be there on Monday and Tuesday because I know like 2 of you on the screen right now are teaching face-to-face. Mm-hmm. I want you to Rhonda and Nisreen, I know are going to be there. I want to be there too. I don't want to be at home behind my computer while y'all are teaching face-to-face. So I want to help in any way that I can. I can't answer every question. I don't know the answer to every question. But if I can be somebody that you can go to and maybe be a resource for you while you're there.
I start on Tuesday, so hopefully by Tuesday you'll know. So just FYI.
Hopefully by then I'll know, yes. Yeah, it's been difficult. Everything's been difficult.
Yeah.
It's been difficult. I'll just say that. It's been
so
tough.
I guess I'll bring my own PPE just in case we don't get them in time.
That'd be a good idea. And it's okay to use your own.
Sure.
Yeah, I would suggest everybody who's teaching face-to-face, please bring your own. It's going to be an imperfect system. It really is.
It will be. Everything's been imperfect so far, so just plan on that. That would be. But I'll do my best to make sure you get it. Okay.
And by September 8th, when we turn into the orange section, there will be a number of offices for student support open on campus, but they will be by appointment only. And so we're emphasizing that with faculty because we oftentimes will say, oh, just go talk to an advisor or just go down to financial.
Right.
So instead of sending them to offices, direct them to their websites, encourage them to call, encourage them to make appointments, because we're still not fully open. And we don't want students to get the impression that they can just come and congregate and walk around and take care of this and that. The cafeteria will be limited open. The bookstore has limited hours, so there will be some areas open, but it is not designed to be walk around and get the college experience they're used to.
Okay. Let's see. Not too far. Other requirements this fall, we should all have at least one synchronous office hour. I have an office hour where you can come in. The best way to do it, and after listening to my faculty last night, I think the best way to do it is have the hour and ask students to come in so that you can talk to them virtually, either by phone or by Zoom, so that you can address their need privately during that office hour. But I'm also having appointments too. I'm asking students to give me an appointment, give me 2 times an hour apart that are good for you. And if I can do those, I'll shoot you a Zoom meeting. So try to be flexible with this. Have at least one synchronous office hour where every week you're having virtual contact with your students. Okay. Response times on emails are 48 hours. You have to answer within 48 hours. I highly suggest you do it in 24 or less. It just makes things easier. Students don't like to wait 48 hours for anything. And I understand that you have other things to do in your life. You know, sometimes you have kids, you have family, you have all kinds of obligations, you have jobs. You can't live on an adjunct salary. But if you can, 48 hours has to be your minimum. And if you can do it in 24, I'd like this rule though, because it actually sets a standard. When students email me and say, you know, that Professor Shearer, she's not answering my emails. And I'll go, when did you email her? And they say, well, 45 minutes ago. Okay. Maybe you should give her a little more time or something like that. And I'm sorry I use Rhonda as an example because I never get complaints on her. But this gives me a chance to say, okay, give your professor 48 hours. That's what the policy is. If they don't email you in that time, you send it back and you forward me the email that they have failed to answer. So that gives you, it gives you a line, it gives me a line, okay? I don't know how many times I've gotten complaints from students who a professor didn't email them within the last hour. And they say, this professor isn't emailing me. And of course they're too embarrassed to send me the email that it isn't getting answered because they'll know what I'll say. So yeah, please go ahead and make sure that you answer emails. Require class meetings. Faculty should not require students to attend class meetings during times that they have advertised to the students. So let it be optional. Come into class. I'm not saying don't have any points for that, but make sure that you make provisions for students who can't come because you never know what's going on. Post-Thanksgiving, classes do not end on Thanksgiving. There's a good reason not to have classes after Thanksgiving because people go away on holidays during Thanksgiving and they get in groups of 50 people. And it's not a good thing for them to come back and get in other groups of 50 people. So I think it's a good move not to have class face-to-face after Thanksgiving, but we are still having classes virtually, okay? You should have a final exam after Thanksgiving. If you have a synchronous class, if you have a face-to-face class that meets at a time or a synchronous online class, look at the final exam schedule and have your final exam at that time. If you have an asynchronous online class, remember that if you force students to take an exam at a time, another professor may be doing that too and making it impossible for the student to succeed. So give some leeway. They recommend about 48 hours where a student can come in and take the test. Now, you don't have to give them 48 hours to take your test. You can make it a time limit at a certain time, but give them some leeway on when they can take that test because some of them are going to have 2 or 3 finals during this time period. Do I have a question? No questions? Okay. Zoom video presence. students cannot be penalized for not participating in live Zoom. I've already went over that. Online structure for classes with in-person components. If you move from face-to-face to online, please keep the synchronous set. I think I've stressed that enough. Go ahead and keep that time and make sure you open Blackboard on the first class day. Any questions on all that? Most of that's review for you. Okay. Provost message from Provost Link. We encourage everyone in our community to be flexible and compassionate with each other and our students. I've only known Provost Link for a couple of years now. He seems to live by this. So, I mean, Provost Link is a guy who says, look, you know, people make mistakes, give them a break, or, you know, things aren't going quite that way. I remember when I was in his office and he talked to me for about 10 minutes about a student he gave a second chance to who ended up being a big success, and that maybe we should think more about second chances. I'm fine with that. I think it's a good way to go. I just think you should always think about everybody. Sometimes one student ruins it for everybody else. And when one student ruins it for everybody else, you need to take action to stop that. So it does go back and forth, but I think we need to be flexible here. Give students a break, understand that they're under stress. It's very difficult. And this is a philosophy that Provost Link lives by, from what I can see. So I think it'll make a better atmosphere on the campus. And hopefully it'll make it where people will be just as motivated to do well if people, you know, when people treat you nicely and you live and you work in an atmosphere that's really, really fun to go to, I think you're just so much more productive when you do that. So I'm going along with this philosophy. I'm gonna accept his leadership and do what I can to go forward with it. And I encourage you to do the same thing. And but at the same time, let me know if things, you know, if a person is causing a problem constantly, then maybe you need a little bit less flexibility. Maybe you need a little less freedom. But for the first part, for the most part, for the start, understand that everybody needs a break, because, you know, until, you know, it happens to you, you don't really realize how bad some things can be. Blackboard Foundations training. Okay. You only have 10 days left to do this. If you haven't done your Blackboard Foundations training, do it. Okay. It's on the July 28th email from the provost. And Susan, did you see it on a different place? I think it's on your Blackboard. Is it on Blackboard? Is this one on Blackboard? Okay.
Well, okay. So if you want to access it, everybody who has a Blackboard page, if you go down the middle of your Blackboard page where your courses are listed, you go all the way down till you find courses in which you are enrolled as a student, and you'll find Blackboard Foundations there.
Right. Okay. And I'm going to send you by email access to it. When you take the course, and everyone is going to have to take this course, so you take it in the next 10 days because you'll get a $75 stipend if you do. Go ahead and take it and get a stipend. Get that certificate, okay? Make a copy of it on a PDF of it, I think is what it is. Send it to me so that I can make sure you get your $75 stipend. Does everybody understand that? Okay, this is a simple training. I think they're saying it takes 2 hours to do. If you watch films and so forth, you can take 2 hours doing the training. But in all honesty, I mean, if you know Blackboard very well, it won't take that long. The test is really easy. I made 100 on the first go round. If you don't do well, you can take it again. Get that certificate, take that test, get your $75, and send that to me so I can give you the $75, okay? Every time you take a training, you're gonna learn something new. So go ahead and learn that something new. It'll help you be a better teacher, and you'll be while you may not be richer, you may be able to go have lunch in your favorite restaurant. This is my list, okay? We've talked a little bit about this stuff before, but these are areas where in my 3 years as chair, we've went from kind of a silence on these issues to them becoming extraordinarily important issues. So I'm going to go over FERPA and HIPAA. Basically, you need to protect student information. You don't need to forward student information to anyone else. So when it comes to grades, if you want to talk to students about grades, make sure it's on their UHD account. Excuse me. Make sure that it's on their UHD email account. Don't talk about grades on a Gmail account or a Yahoo account or an Outlook account. Make them do it on their UHD email. When it comes to sickness or health issues, you don't forward, if a student volunteers to you that they have a sickness or a health issue, that is not something for you to forward to someone else. Just because a student told you doesn't mean it's not confidential. So in all things, remember that when you forward information from a student, it's on a need-to-know basis. In most cases, no one needs to know a student is sick with something certain. Now, if it's COVID-19, we got policies in place on what to do. But even if it is COVID-19, if the student says, I got COVID-19, please don't forward it to me. This student has COVID-19. Okay? Let's go through the policies and procedures that you'll be able to look at it. Jerry Johnson has put it out. I'll send you that email. It'll tell you what to do and just obey that. The best rule of thumb is never to give information you don't need to. When it comes to a student, it comes to health, grades, any student information, student personal information. If you know that, don't forward it to anyone, okay? That's the best rule. If you have a question, email me. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out for you, okay? Disabilities, it's the same way. You don't reveal someone's disability if you know it, okay? We went through that with bad consequences in the past. So please make sure that you do your best not to reveal somebody's disability. Another issue that came up that I meant to address yesterday and didn't was gender identification. Okay, don't voluntarily identify somebody's gender. Okay, if you need to be safe, you don't know what their gender is, call them by their name. Okay, but don't call them Ms. when they may be Mr. and don't call them Mr. when they may be Ms. Okay, that becomes a Title IX issue if you do that. So be sure that you're careful with this stuff. I mean, I see, in all honesty, they're very innocent mistakes where they misidentify someone's gender and somebody gets very, very upset because of that. It's a very important issue. So don't don't make a Title IX issue by doing that. Just be careful. The most important thing up here is sexual misconduct. That's part of Title IX. If you find out that sexual misconduct has occurred in any way, if you heard it in an email, if you heard a student say it, if you read it in a paper, a student writes it in a paper that they were sexually assaulted, anything along those lines, you should report that to Erica Harrison. You shouldn't report it to me, report it to Erica Harrison. If you don't remember Erica Harrison's name, email me and say, Dr. Branham, who is that Title IX coordinator that I need to know? I will give you her information. Don't email me what happened with the sexual misconduct, okay? Because that means I'm going to have to report it too, okay? I don't need to know that. But if you do, I mean, if you make a mistake and do it, it's okay. I'll make the report. I will do it, but you don't need to do that, okay? If you see sexual misconduct, only one person needs to know. That's Erica Harrison. And now she may work with you to help that student get resources that they need, or that staff member gets resources that they need, or that faculty member. If you see any sexual misconduct that occurs to anybody on campus, report it, okay? If it happens to me, your boss, or somebody else's boss, you report it, okay? If you see it, report it. There are no exceptions, okay? So if you see that, please do it because your job is actually on the line, okay? And it's actually illegal for you to purposely not report it. You could actually go to jail for that. So if somebody tells you that, tells you something happened to them, my husband beat me up, if they tell you, you need to report it. It's the law, okay? The other thing is, I said, my husband beat me up. People will say, that's not sexual misconduct. Yes, it is. Any kind of violence between dating partners is sexual misconduct, okay? Could be a married couple, could be married and divorced. It can be dating, people who are dating. It doesn't matter if it's man and woman, woman and woman, man and man. It doesn't matter. You have to report it, okay? If it's a dating violence, please don't hesitate. Don't hesitate to put it in your syllabi. Tell your students, if you tell me about sexual misconduct, I will be reporting it, okay? Your job is on the line on this. Please, please do it. Does anyone have any questions on this?
I probably have an advantage over everyone else because I teach deviance and I have an entire chapter on sexual misconduct. So it comes up all the time. And I use Erica's name a lot.
Well, all of you are highly valuable, and I would really hate to lose somebody because of this. I mean, your best friend may tell you about it, and if your best friend is an employee at UHD, you need to report it.
Yep.
I mean, it makes it very difficult. I have very, very, very good friends at UHD. I've been there for 15 years. I've known them for 15 years, and they're very close. And if they tell me something that I need to report, I will report it. And that puts a block in our friendship. I can't be a person they can confide in, and I can't be a person that will keep it a secret for them. I can't. That I'm upset about. I don't like that.
It is the only way to get a handle on it.
It's the same time.
It's the same requirement we have with child abuse.
Stop
it's the only way to get a handle.
That's what the purpose is. So I'd hate it that people won't tell me. And my very closest friends will now hesitate to tell me because they know I will pick up the phone and call Erica Harrison.
Yep.
But that is the way it is. That's the world we live in. So please, please do that.
Dr. Brandon?
Yes.
Hello?
Okay. I think that's all I have. I'll put my stop share on, and I'm going to answer any questions. I'm going to let Susan answer any questions that she wants to, or put in anything that she wants. Susan's going to be working a lot with you in the next year. We're making some changes in my office. She's committed to helping me out, so we're going to do that. We'll let you know what's going on as time goes forward. But I'm hoping that she'll be a real asset for you. And I really thank all of you for coming. You know, I mean, I made this not at the easiest time, but I had to wait because so many things changed so quickly that I didn't really know what to tell you all until the last couple of days. And even now, things may change because now we have a nice hurricane coming. Brian, I know he's going to be very busy over at the food bank. I appreciate you coming, Brian, because, you know, there's going to be a lot of need going on in the next week. If that hurricane hits and you're fortunate enough to come out unscathed, and others are, don't be afraid to take some time to help out other people in the process. Any other questions? Any questions? Susan, do you have anything you want to add?
Just that I really am available to you for for helping you get things set up in your course and to point you to online resources or resources that will help accentuate your online class. And if you have training needs, please let me know, and I will either do it myself or connect you to the correct people to help you. So. And at some point, I will be setting up a couple of Zoom meetings for us to go over just some ways that you can enhance your course online, and you know, those will be drop-ins from you, nothing required, but something that you can just consider to be a little continuing education.
Okay, I thank every one of you for coming. I appreciate it. I thank for every one of you for what you do for the university. You're a fantastic group, and I appreciate all of you. Please let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I know that times are kind of in peril, where from one day to the next, we don't know what's going on, but we'll adjust. We always have. And we seem to all love what we do. So let's continue that. And I look forward to a great semester. Thank you very much. And welcome to all of our new. I see Whitney. Welcome to you. And I think there's another new person I haven't seen. Nancy, I see over there. She's from long distance. I think she's in Canada. So,
yes. Hi, everybody.
See you, Nancy.
Yeah.
David, can I make one other last announcement?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
We make IDs for faculty and staff and students. We are not open to do that right now, but we are working on some hours to make that happen. So I know everybody wants your UHD ID. We want to wear it proudly, right? Because we are UHD faculty. Once we open up, and we believe we will start making IDs on September 8th or around the middle of September, and we will send out notice of that. But we're over in the Student Life Center. You know, you can come and work out with us when you come over. I mean, obviously when we open up in yellow, but we want you to know where the Student Life Center is. We're one of the few universities that offer our services to faculty free of charge at this time. Free of charge. Come work out, get in shape, stress relief. I promise the students will not bother you. Trust me, they don't even know you're there. So come over and work out and take advantage of the programs that we also offer.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, everyone. I will see you later. Like I said, let me know if you need anything from me. It's great to see all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, and thank you.
Bye.
She gave you the food.
There you are, Pam. Bye, John.
How's it going, Dave?
It's going good. Good to see you, man.
Thanks for doing all this.
So you know what's behind me?
What's that?
You know what's behind me? My virtual.
Listen to me. I'll get McKinley, Everest, Whitney.
It's a very famous mountain, much more famous than that.
I don't know.
Mount Ararat.
Ah.
See, you can see if I get in the way, there's the monastery.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah. I went over there, not this past summer, but the summer before, because repatriation of my father's ashes. So I got some good pictures.
That's a beautiful picture. That's a great background. Anytime I do a background, though, my head just disappears in it.
Well, I had to try out a bunch of them because, yes, it happens a lot.
Well,
oh, this is so stressful. I can't even begin to tell you.
I have a 6 o'clock, so I'm gonna have to take off. I'll see you all later.
Okay, take care.
All right, Dave. Hey, Dave, you going to be around Monday?
Absolutely. I'll be there on campus.
All right, Whitney teaches at 5:30. One of us should be there to make sure she gets into her room.
5:30 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I'll talk to you Monday.
Okay. We'll see you, John. Thanks.
Thanks, man.